Hey guys, Brandon Woolum hanging out in the CCM Cafe today with Matt, Josh, the Afters. How are we?
Very good.
So as we're recording this, we literally are in an empty building pretty much because there's 8 inches of snow in Nashville, which is probably like 3 feet anywhere else. Nashville is not prepared for 8 inches of snow.
Snowpocalypse.
Yeah, so I'm glad you guys made it into the cafe today, but also just into Nashville for this.
Somehow we were on one of the only planes that was able to fly into Nashville, and we got a car that has 4-wheel drive, so we've been making our way through the snowy streets.
Yeah.
Been fun.
So you got a new single that came out. It's been out a while now, but it's still doing good things. God is with us. How's it been seeing how that's doing around not only the country, but the world right now?
You know, it's been amazing to see how people have taken that song and really made it their own. You know, people who have gone through hard times. And that was a hope that we had for the song, is that as people go through really hard times and ask questions like, where is God in the middle of this, that it would encourage them in their faith. And so it's been cool to see all the stories that have come out from that.
And when you guys went into the writing room for this song, it was a very personal song to both of you. You used a couple of your stories to come together to this. Maybe talk about where that song came from.
Right as we went in, me and my wife had just come out of the hospital because just a month earlier she had been diagnosed with a tumor in her lung, and so there was all kinds of craziness going around, and then it actually ended up that we had to have an emergency surgery to get it out because they did a biopsy and that really irritated it, and it started growing really fast, like crazy fast. So we got out of the hospital, and she was just in a tremendous amount of pain. She couldn't take any of the drugs for pain because she was anaphylactic. You just wonder.
The studio.
Yeah, and straight after that week, we came back to Nashville to write songs, and it was a lot of basically those kinds of questions, like, why her? She is the most wonderful, godly woman, serves the church and raises our children, and it's just
she loves Jesus.
Of all of the things, of all of the people like that, and what is it? And we tried to think like a lot of people say, well, God's working in that, whatever. It's it's hard to know sometimes, well, what good can God bring from this pain that won't go away? Or
because on top of it, she was diagnosed with this condition, progressive lung disease, that she'll have for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
So I remember being in the studio working on a different song, and he had just come from the hospital and being there with his wife after that surgery, and it was rough. I mean, you were in a fragile state. You were really, your family was suffering, and we shifted gears and we started asking those questions. I'm sure that most people have asked at some point, where is God in this situation? For me, it was when my dad passed away from cancer, and I walked through his cancer journey. And, in the middle of it, you don't always see God super clearly. But looking back on those situations, I can now see where he was at work. I see that God was present with us, and he did some really cool things, even in those hard seasons. And so we kind of just wanted to call out the elephant in the room, and say, let's not be afraid to ask these questions. I always tell my kids, God's not afraid of your questions. He can take them. And in Scripture, we get a lot of answers. And there's lots of scriptures that point us to the truth that God is always with us, that he's present with us, that he's close to the brokenhearted, that he's not going to leave us when we're suffering. And so as we go through those seasons of life, there's one thing that is 100% in life. We are going to go through loss. We're going to go through seasons of grief. We're going to go through struggling times. We're going to have hard times. It's a part of the human experience. And so what I hope the song does is it points people to Jesus when they're in that place.
Yeah, and even if, we were talking about this as we were kind of putting the bridge together, it's sometimes there's not a good answer. Sometimes there's not a good answer for why you're going through this hard time or this season of loss or pain. There's not a good answer for it. But just because there's not a good answer that you can see, it doesn't mean that God's not there with you and that God doesn't want to meet you in your pain, Yeah.
This is a song you guys have played all over the world, too. Maybe talk about some of the spots you've taken this song to.
Yeah, we've traveled all over the world. We do a lot of shows in America, but also a lot of shows in very far off places. And it's been cool to see how, as we've gone places, the human experience is similar in some ways, because everybody goes through seasons of heartache. Everybody goes through seasons of loss. Everybody, and to see that we have that in common with people all over the world. And so we partner with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association for a lot of events that we do around the world, and have provided music for events that they do. And when Jesus is shared, when the gospel is shared, it's amazing that no matter what culture you're in or what language is spoken, people find freedom, and they're so excited about it. Like we have the cool vantage point of being able to be on the stage and see as the gospel is shared and see the response. And people pour out of their seats every single time. I've seen families running down. They can't get to the front fast enough because they're giving their lives to Jesus, and it feels so freeing. And just seeing that, I mean, that's why we do what we do. That is why we do what we do. And I've seen families hand in hand, just in tears, because they found Jesus.
That's awesome. Speaking of those different cultures, your sister is over there in Israel still, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here in January of 2024, very stressful times over there. What kind of feelings has there been in the family there while you're watching all this, and you know your sister's in the middle of it?
She lives right above the Sea of Galilee. In fact, her patio overlooks the Sea of Galilee. So she has an amazing vantage point to see the north, to see the south. And she's been having these Zoom prayer meetings every week, and people are tuning in from all over the world for these prayer meetings that she hosts there. She's praying over Israel and praying over the Middle East and praying for peace. And her family, her husband's family actually is from the south part of the country, a town called Ashkelon, which is one of the sites that was attacked. And they had to flee to the north. Yeah, we're just praying for them. My sister's actually she's a cool story because she went into archaeology, and you'd think that, going to archaeology would I mean, you're there around all the things where the Bible happened. You're there in the midst of where Jesus walked. You think that it would encourage your faith, but when she was a little kid, she wanted to be Indiana Jones, went to school for archaeology, finally landed this dream job working for this famous biblical archaeologist, and she left her faith. And she became an atheist for a season. And it was really hard on my parents. But check this out. My dad, before he passed away in 2004, he gave his Bible to my sister. And it was his Bible that had like all of his notes and highlighted passages in it. And he said, I know this doesn't mean anything to you right now, but I just ask that you keep this and don't get rid of it. And so she did. And she had it on her bookshelf for about 10 years. And then she and her family went through this really hard, dark season. And she started having these dreams of Jesus. And I remember her telling me, I hate this. I don't want Jesus in my dreams. But it would wake her up. And one night she couldn't go back to sleep. So she got up and she walked into her living room. And for the first time since my dad gave her that Bible, she opened it up. And there was a highlighted passage, jumped off the page at her and just spoke to her. And for the next couple nights, she kept going back to the Bible and kept finding things that spoke to her. And she ended up calling me, and for her it was the middle of the night. She said, Josh, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I want to give my life to Jesus. So I prayed with my sister, and 3 months later, she flew out to Arizona where I live, and I got to baptize her. And then not that long after that, her husband, who is Jewish, he gave his life to Jesus and is now a Messianic Jew. And so seeing that kind of transformation has been so cool. So they lived in the Netherlands for a season, but now they moved back to Israel, which is where they're living right now. And they just feel like God brought them there for this time to be doing ministry there in this hard season and to be praying, over the country and for peace.
Yeah, not only do you have family in different spots, the band is in different spots too. One of you's in Dallas, one is in Phoenix.
Yeah.
How does that affect like all the songwriting stuff? Especially on a day like today or this week, maybe a little stressful when you're taking different flights into Nashville and there's a snowstorm. What happens if one of you ends up here and your other songwriter is stuck in?
Yeah, that's never happened before, actually. Like we always
Miraculously,
get here.
yeah.
We always get here.
Even this, I mean, they took the wheels off the plane and put skis on it, and that helped. But somehow we've always made it, but we're always up for the adventure. So I love the adventure of what we do, that you never totally know what's going to happen. And, some people that might stress them out a lot, but I love the unknown. And so if plans do change and, if we do get stranded somewhere, it's amazing how sometimes really fun things come out of that and really, really cool experiences come out of that stuff.
Yeah. Over these past several years, you've had some songs featured in TV shows, movies, that kind of thing. When you come into weeks like this where you're songwriting, does that ever like pop into your head that maybe we should write this song so that it can fit into maybe a TV or a movie, or you just write them and hope that they get picked up somewhere?
There's a little bit of intention with it, yeah. Because that a certain type of song is going to fit well into, promotion and television, film space, that kind of thing. I mean, mostly we like even the songs though that have been featured in TV. They all have some connection to our lives. They come from a real experience. Or if you write something just to be on TV, most of the times it's not going to be good. Like it has to be authentic. It has to come from the heart. And so a song of ours that has had a lot of TV and film placement is called Moments Like This. And that song, it came out of real experience. Like we wanted to write a song about all these beautiful moments that God puts in our life, and just how amazing those things are. And I think the enthusiasm that we had in writing it, that came out maybe in the song, and that's why it's been a good song to use in promos and TV and film stuff.
Well, we've been surprised. Even really overt Christian songs like "Lift Me Up" and "Light Up the Sky" have been used, and that always blows my mind. I always think, do they know what we're talking about? They have to. Like we say it right there. But I don't know. Yeah, there's something about our music. I don't know. God has always given us favor there, for some reason. So we just continue to let God use us in that way.
So when do we get some more new music? We know you guys are in Nashville this week writing.
On the way.
When are we going to hear it?
Yeah, it's coming. Lots of new music this year. We can't wait for these songs.
We'll probably leak it out here and there, not all at once.
That's kind of how things happen now. We don't really get the full albums anymore. It's single.
Follow us on social media. We'll give you a hint of when it's coming out.
I'm just so grateful that after all these years, I mean, Matt and I we've been playing music together since we were just out of high school. And so to be still doing this, still making music, still releasing albums, still playing shows, I cannot be more grateful. Never take it for granted. It's so great.